Greetings everyone. In this video I want to talk about relationships and loneliness.
Greetings! This infinite source truth is made possible by the generous contributions and support of viewers like you. Please consider making a contribution now. Thank you.
So I want to talk about relationships and those who don't have them feeling lonely. But I will tell you that a relationship is not going to solve your feeling lonely or down, because it's not a relationship issue. Actually, it has more to do with you being centered and connected with your source self and being whole and complete. Entering into a relationship is not going to fulfill you. It is not going to remove that feeling of loneliness, because how many people are married and in relationships that are not fulfilling them, that they still feel lonely. And that's the worst kind of lonely to be, is in a relationship with someone and be lonely. You see, it's not about having another person in your life to share a journey or anything. It's an inner work that has to be done within you, the source player. No one outside of you is going to be able to fulfill you. This is all an illusion anyway. This is a mind game, and it's about aligning your frequencies and raising your frequency. And the higher you raise your frequency, the less you need validation from other people, because you know who you are and you are perfectly happy and content with yourself. You're satisfied. You don't need another person to validate you, to care for you, to anything, because you recognize this reality for what it is, and you have connected with your infinite source self. You have made yourself whole and complete through, the inner alchemy. But even the inner alchemy isn't going to solve loneliness, because that's a whole nother thing. When you are desiring something outside of yourself, okay, it means that something is not lined up inside of you. You are not centered. You are not, you haven't quite realized your full connection with your source self. You haven't totally grasped that this is an illusion. That loneliness is not going to dissipate and go away until you raise your frequency. Now, there is loneliness, and then there's the desire to share the journey. Okay. Sharing the journey really isn't possible in most source players' lives, because there are so few source players who are even awake enough to know that there's a journey to take, that they're on a journey, or that it's scripted, or that it's an illusion, or any of this stuff. And most of them would think you are crazy to suggest that this is all an illusion. So you've knocked out most of the population of source players within this illusionary dream state matrix. Now, the ones that are remaining, it is very difficult to get two to be agreed on anything, let alone be on the same frequency. And that's a challenge. But you're going to have to recognize that you can't go into a relationship without being whole and complete yourself and expect someone else to fill that void in you. And would another source player who is whole and complete want to be attached? Well, for one thing, a source player who is whole and complete isn't going to be looking for completion in another source player. It's an incompatibility. So really what you're looking for is something that is higher than you, and something higher than you is not going to come down to your level to participate with you. And unless you find someone of your own frequency level who's right where you are, and you are linked together and you are going arm in arm up that frequency mountain, then you are going to drop out of each other's lives at some point, because you're going to not become, the frequency match is going to cease to exist. And when that happens, is that going to affect your frequency? If that person disappears out of your life, are you going to be able to be neutral? That person decides that they want to take a different path and they want to go someplace else? Are you going to dive down to the depths of, is it going to upset you? Are you going to remain neutral about it? Are you going to be, oh, okay, I'll move along now? Are you going to be able to do that? Because unless you're able to do that, you probably shouldn't be in a relationship. And if you're thinking of a relationship as being a love relationship where you love and you care about someone, well, that's an illusion, and love hurts. Relationships most always end. And if they don't end, then it's usually because the two people are just sticking it out, because it's painful to separate, or they have a working agreement. But when we're in a relationship, we're always expecting something from it. Otherwise, why bother? Isn't that true? We like to think of ourselves as, I guess, altruistic, or, that we're doing it out of the goodness of our hearts. Or if there's not something in it for you, either in growth or benefit, then it's not beneficial for you to be involved. And in most relationships, it's usually about sex. I'm going to go here. Yes, I'm going to. Many times, the relationship is about sex. And to be honest with you, be honest with yourself. Your masturbation sex is better than any sex that you've ever had with another person, because you know the right buttons to push, and, everything. Yes, it's nice to be cuddled and held and have some flesh on that, but really, if you're just looking for orgasm and the excitement of it, then you can take care of that for yourself better than anyone else can. And that goes in a marriage. It takes time to get to know that other person's buttons and to be able to push them. And then you have to have the desire of pleasing them, of wanting to give them pleasure. And really, what's the point? Yes, I said that. How many of you men have been masturbating to pornography, to beautifully airbrushed illusionary images? And then you get next to a real woman, and your mind has to go to that image to visualize it, to have the pleasure and enjoyment, because you have been masturbating and to those images. Those images get in the way of a relationship. Why bother having one? Women, it isn't so much about the sex. The sex is pleasurable, but they're more into the cuddles and the interaction and just having the feeling of being cared for and loved. It's an emotional response. And the sex could be there or not, and it probably wouldn't bother most women. And if they wanted the sex, then they would take care of it for themselves. And a lot of times it's old maid syndrome. Society expects you to get married and have children, and your parents are expecting you to get married and have children. And, well, you see, children are no longer needed because there's no more reincarnations, so there's not required to re-enter the game. And now, if you are having children, if you're conceiving now, they're if they were to be a source player, they're no longer going to be a source player because those source players have left, and you will be having a soulless one in a source player role. So, children are energy harvesters for the Matrix, above all, and the dynamics that goes on in the family. But it's your programming. You are battling thousands and thousands of years of programming, cellular memory. The higher your frequency climbs, then the less you are going to need from anyone else in this game. Affection, sex, any of it. And eventually the sex will fall off. You complete the inner alchemy, the sex drives diminish. Doesn't completely go away. You can still have sex and enjoy it if you choose to, but you will find it to be less of a desire, and as your frequency gets higher and higher, you are going to really be turned off by the idea of sex, masturbation, or anything. And it's going to have to fall off of you before you can reach the highest frequency. And it does fall off. It's not a problem. Unless you make it a problem and you have to have that masculinity that says that, you know, you're virile and you're, you know, that's who you are. If you link your sex life to who you are, then you are totally missing who you really are, because you are source, and your sex only exists within this illusionary duality matrix. Even physically, we did not experience orgasms in the physical realm. Those are only within this duality matrix, where we have been split and divided and put into this illusionary experience. There are some people who get high from the love. They love love, okay? So they'll go through many, many, many relationships searching for love, but it's really not searching for love. It's the love addiction. They like the thrill of a new relationship. They like the thrill of the conquest. Even it's a hunter conqueror, capture mentality in a lot of men. They enjoy the challenge of bagging the prey. And women aren't exempt here either. They like to rack up the notches in their lipstick case. Because, really, men, you are easily manipulated. Yes, you are. And every woman knows it. And women, you know your abilities, and you know how you have manipulated men. There's not a woman source player in this game that doesn't know how to manipulate a man as long as they are sexually ruled. You are so easy. Put on a mini skirt, put on the lipsticks, show a little cleavage, you put on the attractive clothing, and you prance around in front of them, and you bag those hunters. It's called man-trapping. How many of you women, you buy sexy outfits, you buy the high heels, you get the makeup, you do your hair, you get all dolled up, and it's a game to see how many men you can conquer. Oh yeah, it exists. And soulless ones, that's their scripting in a lot of cases. But source players are like that too. The prey bagging the hunter. You got the guys who are the hunters, and they're out hunting to beg them and pray, but they don't realize that they've been had. Yes, men, you've been had. Your sexual appetite, your uncontrolled sexual appetite, works against you. But in every relationship, there is a give and a take. If there is not a benefit to both source players, then that relationship is going to cease to exist. It just is. It doesn't have to be that way, but it's the nature of people, of source players. Now, there's the dark side of things too, and it's called the shadow self, and I'm going to do a video on that. You need to accept all of yourself, and that includes your motives that are not necessarily what you consider good, because you know what? There's no right, there is no wrong. It's a game, it's an experience, and none of it really matters. You can't get hurt and harmed, but it can be an addiction to relationships and the thrill of the chase for both men and women. And, you know, examine your motives and your reasoning. At the bottom of it all, it really is a lack, an internal lack on your own part, where you are not focusing inside, but you are focusing outside. And as your frequency rises, that too will drop off and away. It is an amazing game, full of pitfalls. Make good choices that will benefit you. And if you have received benefit from the videos that I have been sharing and the information I've been sharing, then it will be in your best interest to become a supporter of this work as you unlock things for yourself that you can unlock no other way. It is a frequency issue. Abundance, health, and prosperity to you.